I love Tom.
I'll just go ask him real quick.
All right,
Yay.
even better. Get this in tan.
Went out with him last.
Funny because like he's like dancing and just and you're like, oh, that's like pretty cool. Like he's like getting down, he's having fun, and then you're like, oh, like he actually knows how to really dance. So you're like, holy fuck.
And he does the splits too. Like he'll do all this shit, hop to the splits. By the way, I don't know if we got on before, but we're talking about Turk from Scrubs. If you guys used to watch Scrubs, I used to watch the show as a teenager.
Oh, it's
man.
amazing.
It was so good. Funny enough, that was one of the shows. And then House. I don't know if you watched House.
I didn't watch House, no.
Okay, those shows were like, I want to be a doctor.
Oh, that's great.
It was one of those things that kind of
Yeah.
made me continue want to do that.
Well, it looked like they were having a lot of fun, especially on Scrubs. It's like all,
Yeah,
comedy.
until you go into a hospital.
Oh, yeah, and you realize everyone's going there to die.
Oh,
And you're like, oh, man.
I don't know. A word from our sponsors.
Yeah, for real.
That's what my grandpa used to say. He's like, hospitals where you go to die. It's like, oh, man, there's actually some truth to that. That's
There
terrible.
There is. Truth sometimes just sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's hard.
Once in a while.
yeah.
But yeah, shows do make things seem like kind of cool. Like, I don't know, did you guys watch Orange is the New Black?
I didn't watch the latest season. I think I kind of just fell
I've
off.
seen it
That,
before.
that makes, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
there's like, hey, like, jail might be a cool place to hang out. Like, what's Andy Dufresne?
Oh, yeah. Shawshank.
Shawshank Redemption also made prison seem like, hey, there's a lot of cool people hanging out
Go
over
in there
here.
and read and learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Is that the one where
Morgan Freeman.
it was Morgan?
Mhm.
Morgan Freeman's in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to watch Shawshank
That's a really
Redemption.
good
It's
movie,
it's one of the
actually.
greatest movies. So if you look up greatest movie of all time, it's one of the ones that will pop up all the time.
Andy Dufresne.
It's really, really, it's a real.
Wait, no, I
movie.
have seen Shawshank Redemption. I have seen it. I saw it
been
when
a
I was
while.
really young. I was thinking of I was mixing up Shawshank Redemption with the Green Mile.
Oh,
That's what I was
yeah.
about to say. Was it the black guy that had magic?
John Coffey.
Yeah, he
Michael-
passed away.
Michael Clark
did?
Duncan. He was fucking jacked.
Is his name
Damn.
Michael? Yeah, that was his name.
Yeah.
He was so huge.
He was
Yeah,
huge.
and his voice.
Dude, yeah,
Bruh.
yeah. He was massive.
To this day, when I make like a really big cup of coffee, I say, strong coffee boss. Like I know he says his
Oh, yeah.
name's John Coffee Boss, but
Yeah,
like I
boss.
just, every time like strong coffee boss.
Nice. Yeah, I need to rewatch both of those movies.
Yeah,
both of those-
Shawshank.
Both those movies are amazing.
Really good stuff. Yeah. We sound a little raspy.
Do we?
Mm-hmm.
That's my Morgan Freeman.
You're pretty good with some of these impressions.
It's not that bad. It's the voice of God
He's
and my
got,
coffee.
yeah. What you been eating, Mark?
What's that?
What you been eating?
Oh, just more meat.
Meat.
You know, more meat than you can shake a stick at. Which I don't know what that. Like, why wouldn't you be able to? Maybe it's like too
'Cause
much
it's so
exercise.
much?
Yeah, there's so many shakes. I don't know.
Maybe because
Yeah.
like the diameter of all of the steak, like you can't get all the way. I don't know.
Shake a stick at all of
Your arm gets tired.
Yeah.
I've been doing some flat irons lately from Piedmontese, and my brother's down there at Piedmontese. I think he flew into like Colorado, and then I think he saw like a ranch, and then I think he drove to like Nebraska. I could have this totally wrong. I don't know if that even makes any sense. And then he got to see their facility, like their packing facility and stuff. And then he said that he had a 7-course carnivore dinner there.
Oh my god!
And they capped it off. They like kept giving him steak, and it was steak followed by more steak.
Yeah.
And he just absolutely loved it. And he said they finished off with a bone-in a tomahawk.
When are we going to Piedmontese?
I
Dude,
know.
for reals.
I know. We'll get that on the calendar for sure in 2021. I wanted to go this round, but I just also wanted to wait until they have everything. Like they just don't have everything all the way together yet. So I was like,
together, what do you mean?
well, they're building a new facility so they can get their packaging the way that they want. I think they're going to have access to do a lot more grass-fed beef. I think they're going to be able to do every single thing that they offer. They'll be able to do grass-fed as well.
Yeah.
And I guess Piedmontese is much different than what we thought it was. It's my brother said that it's more like a giant sperm bank than it is anything else, because
Oh no.
that's really what they yeah. That's what my brother's there for. My brother's there jerking off bulls, basically. He'll be able to explain it when he gets on the show, but
Oh my god.
basically has a lot to do with like breeding, you
Okay,
know,
yeah,
and so like the Piedmontese, the certified Piedmontese cattle, the cows, are at many different ranches.
Mm.
You know, they're kind of spread out throughout the country, I believe. So I don't know, pretty cool stuff. I think it's he sent me some pictures. The cows are freaking
Jack.
yeah, they look amazing. They look unbelievable. It's
Dope.
got to be different, you know, going
Mhm.
up close and seeing the whole thing, right? It's got to be
Yeah, seeing those majestic creatures.
yeah.
Yeah. So with that said, for more information on Piedmontese, it's our absolute favorite beef. It fills us up and it's amazing. It's high in protein, low in fat. So please go ahead and check that out at Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 more, you get free 2-day shipping. You guys got to check out all those deluxe packages and all that good stuff too.
Mhm.
It's really the best beef in the world, yo. I'm so happy to eat it every day.
Yeah.
So for today's show, we're going to get into talking about some training mistakes that we've made over the years, and kind of keep in mind that we don't really believe in mistakes around here. We believe that it helps you kind of make error corrections later on, and the losses are learning experiences, and you kind of learn like, hey, that was that wasn't my best idea. That wasn't the smartest way to go about training for that particular day. But Andrew, you had a problem with your fridge. What happened with your fridge?
Oh my gosh.
Did it blow up?
Yeah, I'll try to make like as short of a story as possible.
Short and fat?
So
Just
not
like we like
last
'em.
night, the night before. You look down, it's like, hey, there's a little bit of water on the floor.
Oh.
Like, I mean, little, like maybe like a couple of ice cubes. Like, maybe my lazy ass dropped ice cubes and I pretended like I didn't see it. Like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was a lot. The next morning, I'm getting my my stuff together to come train here. I go grab my lunch and the fridge is like lukewarm. Like, ah, shit. So we have an ice maker. So we grab the ice maker, put all the like the important food, all the Piedmontese beef, everything we can inside this ice chest. Throw the ice in there. So the whole ordeal like started around 3 p.m. As far as like trying to replace the fridge. And it didn't end till like close to 11 at night. It is such a pain in the ass to try to go out and buy a fridge. I had no idea. I've never really, I mean, all our fridges have been like hand-me-downs. Like, hey, we got a new fridge. You guys want this one? Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Home Depot, and this is, I mean, we can start and stop here, but this guy, it was his absolute like only job in life to not sell me a fridge. It was insane. You know, I had my tape measure out, so because like I don't understand standard sizes and all that good stuff. So I find one. I'm like, hey, like this one looks like it's gonna fit. Price range it's fine, whatever. So I flag the guy over, and I'm just like, hey, I have a couple of questions about fridges. Like, like first off, do you guys like do deliveries? Because I have no idea I've never bought a fridge. And he just looks at me and he's like, well, it just depends which one you want. I'm like, okay, well, I'm interested in this one. So like, will you guys do deliveries on this one? Oh yeah, we can do it on that one. But do you want counter depth? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like now that I hear it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like the depth of a standard counter. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but like, this is the size and everything I want. This is perfect. Mm-hmm. Well, counter depth is, it's the depth of your counter and da-da-da. Like, you need to make sure you have enough space and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, well, this is the one. Like, this is it right here. Do you know if you have this one in stock right now? I'd have to check. I'm like, okay, let's pretend that you guys do. Like, would you be able to do deliveries today? And he's like, do you have a center island? I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have a center island, but I have an interest in buying this fridge. Mm-hmm. Just like, so like, do you think I can purchase this today? Oh, no, God, no, you can't. No, absolutely not. What? Okay. Like, how long would it take to have this fridge right here delivered to my house? He's like, oh, it's going to be at least 1 to 2 weeks. All right, dude. Thanks for your time, I think. And then, of course, as I'm like trying to sprint out of there, he starts, oh, but we can do this. I'm like, just go.
Was he trying to upsell you on a more expensive fridge?
No, God, that guy was trying to not sell me on anything.
Maybe he was, honestly, I think that he may have actually been trying to save you from the depths of Home Depot, because Home Depot fridges are more, like we said, more expensive than other fridges for no reason. So he's probably like, let me just get this guy out of here and save his wallet.
Well, okay.
Could have been a great salesman, like a great guy.
Maybe he had like a conscience or whatever. Mm-hmm. But so we went.
Was Stephanie with you, by the way?
Yeah, she was.
He saw the pregnant belly.
Could be.
He knew.
You're right.
Yep.
And then we went across the street to Best Buy. Very similar thing, like similar price ranges. Seen a fridge, like, hey, like this one looks cool. You don't want that one. Like, no, like this is the cool dimensions and stuff. Just like, no, this is the one that you're actually gonna want. And pulls out a paper, and I'm like, okay, can we take that one home today? No, just no. That's not how you buy fridges. I'm like, fucking shit.
These are really moral salesmen. Trust me. There's what happened to you.
I guess
there's and I don't really remember what this is called, but there's some things with design within a kitchen that things are like in some sort of triangular pattern because of the way you open things up.
Right.
And so that's might be the reason why they asked you, like, it felt like they asked you 9,000 questions. Mm-hmm. You're like, why the fuck you need to know where I'm from?
Yeah.
Why do you need to know where I'm born? Like, this is weird. But I think it's because you don't want to like, open a fridge that hits into your dishwasher or, other cabinets or whatever. It shouldn't be that complicated.
Yeah.
It should be pretty straightforward.
But I mean, I was just frustrated because I'm like, I have my tape measure in hand. I'm like, yep, this lines up, depth and everything.
Take my money.
Yeah, and no. So we ended up going to a like a Sears outlet store where like they only have what like you see. And I'm like, load that one up. And so thank goodness my brother-in-law, he's got a pond cleaning service or pond repair and stuff. So he has a work truck. So if you're in the Sacramento area, hit me up because I have a really good guy that can help you with your ponds. But it was still a pain in the balls to load and unload that thing because it was just us. Because if we wanted them to deliver it, they said it was going to be like Sunday or Monday. And I'm like, oh man, all my Piedmontese beef, like I can't, like, so we ended up getting it day of, and it was like I said, like 7.5 hours.
Damn.
But we got it done, so that's cool. Tired, but here we are.
Now you got a fridge.
Got a fridge.
All right, let's talk about stupid stuff that we did to mess ourselves up over the years.
I guess I could begin.
Yeah, I guess I could start with, and maybe you guys can ask me some questions on this one. But I did the inch on the arms in one day. It was a program that was going on. It was going around for a few years back, or many years back, probably, I don't know, 20 years ago or something like that. And it was like you just train your arms all day. You stay at the gym and you actually like eat, and they had suggestions towards like what kind of food you eat and stuff, like rice cakes and like peanut butter and stuff like that. And I think from what I remember, you work out for like, I want to say maybe like 6 hours or 8 hours. There's like some small breaks in between, but you just keep training. And you bring a tape measure with you and everything to kind of like check the gun size, cool. Afterwards. And, it does pump up your arms a lot, as you can imagine. Yeah, it does. And I think, if anything, it might cause like rhabdo or something where you're just so swollen. But I just remember that I couldn't straighten my arms for several days. My arms were just like stuck. And then, of course, it didn't really lead to any permanent gains.
That's what happened to me after retraining with Chef Rash. I couldn't extend my arms for a few days. Yeah. Dude. So wait, I'm guessing they said do this on a weekend or something because you were only supposed to do it for one day, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to go back to the gym and do it on another day.
Right. Yeah, you just stay there basically is what you do. You get like 15, 20-minute break, you like rest for a little bit and eat, and then you get back to it. I don't remember that much about it. I just remember it was like torturous. I think you went back and forth between biceps and triceps. I'm sure it's online. I'm sure you can probably like look it up and find some information about it.
What was it called? It was
an inch on the arms in one day, or inch on the arms in one day, something like that.
I wonder how long that inch is supposed to last. Maybe like 3 days or something. But man, that's a lot of training volume for one single day, man.
I know.
And when you said rhabdo, I couldn't think of it. I was like, that's gonna cause that thing that Dana Lynn Bailey got.
Right.
Rhabdo. God. That kind of like I think I've made that mistake, but within bigger periods of time where I was just chasing the pain.
Right.
That was the thing for me in some of my teenage years. Ooh, is this it?
Yeah.
8-hour arm workout by Rich. Was it by Rich Piana?
No, this is really a long time ago that I found it, but
maybe Rich Piana, R.I.P. got it from that workout.
I wonder what he had to say about it. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if he I wonder if he felt that it like did anything. But I think the main thing here is just to understand that you can get a pump. And you can make your arms a lot larger in a training session. If you're already well trained and you already have like a peak and stuff, I don't know what's possible in terms of making your arm bigger, but I would say that maybe your arm can get about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches bigger for some people because they already have a good peak when they flex. And if you get a lot of blood volume in there and you weigh like 280 or some shit like that, your arm probably goes from being 20 probably to looking like 22. And bodybuilders, they stay on that theme and they pump up every workout and they try to like ride out the pump for an entire duration of a workout. But your arms, obviously, they go down again. They like deflate, they go back up, they go down, they go back up, they go down. And I think for a lot of bodybuilders, they're really just trying to like I guess, maybe jam a lot of nutrients in there, right? I mean, you're trying to get carbohydrates, sodium, potassium, those kinds of things flowing through whatever muscles that you're working for the day. That's why they use, post-workout and some pre-workout carbohydrates.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And it's this idea of like, let's just blow this thing up with air every single time that we train. And over a period of time, the muscle will want to grow and repair and lay down some bigger guns, but it's not going to happen in one day.
Dude, let's talk about the pump real quick, because a lot of people like to talk crap about chasing the pump. But these bodybuilders, there's logic behind chasing the pump, because when you chase the pump, what you're actually doing is if you do too many reps where you fail too often, well, then your workout's going to end early because your muscles are too fatigued and you can no longer chase the pump. But if you can do just the right amount of reps where you can keep that pump and you're almost getting to that spot, but you're not getting to that place where you're getting way too fatigued, you can continue chasing the pump throughout a long workout and getting a lot of training volume. Even though we just say chase the pump, there's so much logic behind chasing the pump.
There's a lot that goes into it, and it's like an art. And if you remember Arnold, he said for him, like, it's like coming in the gym, because getting that pump, I mean, it really is kind of a magical thing. It's sometimes elusive a little bit. Sometimes some days you're like, you try something that you tried in the past and you're like, it ain't happening today. You're like, what the, why can't I get that same sensation? And I think for me, what's worked well is to train, kind of a main movement as movement number 1 and sometimes movement number 2, and not really worry about the pump, and train in a rep range that is anywhere between 4 reps and maybe up to 8 reps or so. Mm-hmm. Try to train a little heavier on whatever exercise it might be. And then from there, the next exercise, the rep range is going to be bumped up a little higher. So maybe let's just say hypothetically, I did 6 reps on the first exercise that I did. The next thing that I do, I might move into sets of 10 to 12. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I might even start to move into, sets of 15. And to finish the workout, it could be like sets of 20, because my strength is diminishing as the workout goes along. But you still feel like you have enough energy to still, get some reps, and you are trying to, quote unquote, shape the muscle or superset or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And there's a lot of logic behind that too, because when you're doing higher rep sets, especially when you're using a decent weight for those sets, it is way more tiring than working with a decent weight for 6 to 8 or 6 to 10 reps. You're going to beat yourself up more because the set just takes longer to do. So that's why it does make more sense for those much higher rep sets to come towards the end of your workout. Even though it may seem super simple, there's a reason why you want to start with that bigger movement to activate as many muscle groups as possible, whether it be a big barbell row or, maybe a box squat or a trapdoor deadlift. They'll activate a lot of different muscle groups and get you warmed up and ready to work your other smaller muscle groups later on in the workout. Makes a lot of sense. But you see, that sounds too smart. You see, we're not trying to be smart right now. What is the dumb shit? What is some other dumb shit that you did? Maybe as a teenager, because as a teenager, we do some stupid stuff.
I've done a bunch of different styles of workouts. German volume training, which I don't really necessarily think is dumb. I just think that it was like
too soon.
It was just too much. Like 10 sets of 10.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So this is something everyone should be aware of, is that whatever program you're about to do, it should match up well with what you've done before. So whatever you're about to go into, I would like for it to not be this massive stretch or this massive jump into something. It's kind of like stretching. Like when you stretch, they'll tell you you're not trying to stretch to the point of like you feel like you're going to throw up because you're in so much pain.
You want to be in pain, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really important for people to, you are going to need to take risks here and there, and you are going to need to like F yourself up a bunch. But in general, if you've never done 5 sets of 10, you don't have any business trying 10 sets of 10. And the German volume training stuff that I did was like a 10 sets of 10 squat supersetted with like a hamstring movement in between. I think I was trying to do stiff leg deadlifts, and that just didn't work. My whole core got like numb, and I couldn't move. Yeah, I couldn't move any weight. Like I couldn't no longer feel the exercises.
Yeah.
Because like my back got so pumped up and my core got pumped up. It was weird. I was like, I'm like, the exercises are now like worthless, and I'm shaking like crazy, and I didn't have hardly any weight on the bar. And so I had to like, then the next time I tried, I was like, okay, let me try a squat and like a leg curl. And then maybe the next time I do it, I'll do like a leg extension and like a deadlift, that way it was, I'd have, one main movement or whatever. But it just slaughtered me. And I just remember I just couldn't walk. That's really the results I got. Like, hey, what'd you get off of that program? It's like, well, I walked like I shit my pants for, 7 or 8 days,
Yeah. It would have made sense. Like, if you were already doing a lot of volume, GVT would have made some sense. But if you go from doing 5 sets of 10 to 10 to 10 by 10, that's fucked. It kind of reminds me. It was a few years ago. I think it was 2013, 2014, circa Instagram, right? Where everybody in powerlifting started doing Shako. Like everybody was hashtagging, this is Shako. This is
like
Shako.
Squat every day type stuff?
Squat every day and Shako type stuff. And like no one knows what the hell Shako was because it was still in Russian, but we were getting like an American version of Shako. And everyone was like, hashtag Shako, this program's great. But then a lot of people were like, Shako got me injured. Like a few months later after it got big, everyone's like, I got injured doing Shako. And it's just like, come on now. Like,
well, you went from squatting once a week to all of a sudden having this idea that squatting with a good amount of intensity every day is a good idea. And it's like, again, whatever you're about to do, it would be great.
It was so funny
if you were like prepared to work your way into it. Like I've done with like running, I feel like now I can run pretty well. But I was never like, hey, I'm going to go run 10 miles, out of nowhere. And that's just from like learning. On the same topic, Max Aida, his trainer, his coach was really big on squats.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, we're going to fix everything on everybody. And this is what Cal Strength does as well. We're going to fix everything on everybody by squatting. He's an Olympic lifting coach. And Max Aida was a pretty damn good Olympic lifter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked Max when he was here, I said, what do you think of, I was like, this program's flying around everywhere, squat every day. I'm like, it kind of seems crazy to me. He goes, I did that for 11 years. I was like, what the fuck?
That's why it's such a good squat.
Yeah. He's like, it works. Yeah. He's super efficient. 733 squat at 220. Not a bad squat.
Oh, but but I think that's the thing. Like, that's the thing that everybody can build up to. But again, it's build. Like 3 to 10 to 10 by 10. You got to like start with maybe doing just like small types of squats every single week. Maybe like a normal squat on Monday, and then maybe a box squat on Tuesday that's light, and maybe a light front squat on Wednesday, and then maybe another normal squat on, like you ease yourself into it.
Maybe just 2 sets.
Just
like just a couple sets.
Just
and then you have one
shit.
you have one day a week where you do maybe a little bit higher volume. You got one day a week where maybe you do a little higher intensity, but it's not high intensity, high volume, high rep, it's not Branch Warren.
Oh God.
Branch Warren style, where it's like, how do you train? Do you like to do a lot of sets? Do you like to use heavy weight, or do you use high reps? And he's like, yep.
I do it all.
I remember when he came into the gym, like they just got done like interviewing him with something, and as soon as I walked in, he just looked at me like right dead in the eyes, like, are you ready? And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, I'm terrified of whatever's about to happen next, but I'm ready. And he grabbed like 50-pound dumbbells. He started doing like front raises, like a madman.
Dude, when I think of Branch Warren, immediately like the color red comes into my head and screamo music starts playing. That's what happens when I think of Branch Warren, just because he's so intense. But he's an awesome guy with a great beef jerky that I haven't tried.
Yeah, that jerky was delicious.
You had it?
Yeah.
I've always wanted
when
to
he
try
was here, he dropped some off, and that shit was hell. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, keep in mind who you're dealing with. Like that's a guy that like jumps on the back of like a wild boar and kills it with a knife.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
He goes like on boar hunts.
Wow.
And he invites everybody, and everyone's like, no, like, I'm not going to do that, dude. Like, fucking crazy bastard.
Everyone's out here hunting with bows and killing elk, and Branch Warren's jumping on boars.
He's got a little like pocket knife. Like, nah, this is all you need. It's like, but isn't that going to make it hard? Yeah, that's the point.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That man's so big.
I would say, just in general, like biggest training mistakes, especially when I was young, was just not being patient towards anything. I mentioned the inch on the arms in one day.
Yeah.
I also just used to train too heavy. And I have always been pretty good at bench pressing. So like bench pressing, it came to me a little easier. I got used to it faster. I used to love doing push-ups, so I just randomly pop push-ups while I was like watching TV and stuff when I was a kid. But my legs weren't very strong, and then every time I'd try to squat, first of all, I wasn't as confident in my squat, and then secondly, I would always use probably maybe 10-15% too much weight every time. So my form was never good. I didn't lock my form or technique in, and I'd pretty much hurt myself like maybe about every other month, it seemed like.
Yeah.
I would pull something to my back, and I wasn't lifting like a total maniac. It wasn't like if someone saw me lifting, you know, at 18, they wouldn't be like, that guy's got no clue what he's doing. It was just too heavy. It was just too much. You know, rep number 3 and rep number 4 of sets of 5 would just, you know, I'd start to round over, and it just, you know, wouldn't be very good. And I learned over a long period of time that for me, whenever I kind of scraped up against having a breakdown, that's when I got really strong. So it's almost like right before you have breakdowns, you know, they call it a technical limit. You know, just kind of scraping up against that technical limit. Like if we were doing 5x5, you might say, hey, the last 2 sets, the last rep, you know, wasn't most amazing reps, but I think that's about where you should be.
Yep.
You know, there should maybe be some small, because if there's not any flaws, then you don't have anything to really correct. And I don't know if it's enough stimulus for your body to get stronger. But as we know with things like jujitsu, as we know with things like football, when you're working on a particular skill, if you continually mess up that skill, if I'm supposed to go out for a pass and every time I go to like cut to the right, I, you know, round off the pattern. You know, you're not supposed to round off the pattern because the ball's going to end up going the other direction because the defensive back's going to be able to creep up on you. They'll be able to ride your hip. They'll be able to they'll be able to, you're telegraphing like where you're running. And you're also creating a lot of space for that guy to get in front of you and to get the ball.
Yeah.
And so you're supposed to make a much sharper cut, right? But if you do that continuously, well, what's now ingrained in your body? You know, and then every time you go to do a squat, if you always look like you're throwing up in a toilet, then your body's going to kind of go to that. That's going to be default position for your body. You know, your body's going to say, hey, let's use our lower back because our legs aren't strong enough, or we just didn't have good position to start with. And so I just did way too much of that and hurt myself way too many times. And I wish that I didn't. I ended up with some pretty bad injuries too. I had some really bad sciatica for about 2 years, where just the pain would run from my lower back all the way down my leg. And I was like 20 or 21. Shouldn't have that when you're 20 or 21. You should be like limping around. And luckily it just happened to heal up for me. But, you know, I like herniated a disc just from like not paying attention.
Yeah. You know, it's really funny you say that. When I was 15, I told you guys I started training when I was 13, and then there's this guy that I would just copy in the gym. He's just really jacked black dude. And I was just like, I'd look at what he's doing, then I'd go to bodybuilding.com and I'd copy him. We never spoke, but there was one day we never spoke. But there was one day I was 15 and I was doing Pendlay rows because he did Pendlay rows too. And then I saw he saw me, right? And I was doing some really heavy weight, but then I injured myself. Like I injured my back. And he walks up, he's like, that looked really good, but you're doing too heavy. And I hurt myself. Those are the only words I've ever heard from him. And I think I saw him like a few more times, and he probably moved because he never came back to that gym. But that was the first time I got injured. And those few words made me be like, I'm lifting like a dumbass. Like I was really lifting like a dumbass. Like I was just doing things to lift heavy. And like you said, I wasn't patient. And that caused me to mess myself up. And from there, that's the point where I was just like, okay, everything needs to look really, really good. The only time it should be bad is like if I'm trying to go really heavy and like I know it's gonna be a little but that should be super rare. And that back injury changed my life.
How about overdoing some pre-workout?
Have
you messed with that one at all before?
Once. It wasn't a good time because I didn't sleep that night. I think I had what was it? It's the yellow bottle. C4. I had 3 scoops of C4.
Sick.
Yeah.
I love those Instagram clips where it's like, it says like only use 1 scoop and the guy's always like, fuck it. And then he like jumps over the bench and like works out like a madman.
It's because I always saw other people. Like there's this guy I used to work with and he could just take 2.5 scoops to the dome. He's like, let's go. I was like, fuck it. I'm kind of tired. Let's fucking do this. I was like, I'm gonna take 3. And I was super tingly that workout. And then I went home and I couldn't close my eyes. Like, I was just up to the next day. I think I went to sleep at like 2 the next day, 2 p.m.
Just completely wired
Fucked.
and tired.
And tired. Well, how about you? You had some pretty crazy pre-workout, both of you guys probably.
Yeah,
right?
well, I was gonna say like that's really like one of like the first things that my mind went to, because like my experience, I'm still trying to play catch up. But yeah, like just like all noobs, like I'm like, oh dude, I gotta go hit the gym. It's like 8 p.m. Yeah, let me take this pre-workout. But the one that stands out the most is when it's actually when like I met Stephanie. Like I'm like, hey, I like this chick. She does CrossFit. Let me go ahead and hey, I want to do CrossFit now.
Yeah.
I took a bunch of Shroom Tech Sport. So that's on its like kind of like, it's not even really a pre-workout. It's just supposed to help you like prolong your workout.
Mm-hmm.
I took a whole bunch, and and that day, like the WOD was like, it incorporated like a mile run somewhere in the middle of it. Yeah. And I just remember like, okay, dude, just like hold it in. Like, don't be a bitch. Like, come on. Like, just fight through it. I just puked out like all of this like nasty like green shit everywhere.
That was one of your first days with Stephanie.
It was early on, yeah.
She loves you.
Yeah, thank goodness. But yeah, dude, I just remember like the pre-workouts, and really just like for me, it's to this day is like the supplements. Like overdoing it, trying to like get something out of this when it's obviously we know it's like more on this side, but. The pre-workout's way too late, and trying to figure out why I can't sleep. Like, this was weird. Like, I worked out. Like, oh, it's because I worked out too hard. That's why I can't go to sleep.
I always wonder now, why did we never think about that? Why did we not think pre-workout has caffeine? Don't take it at night. Like, I feel like it took me too long to realize that. It's just like, this isn't like coffee. No, it is. It's like you're drinking coffee at 8 p.m. Why didn't?
Because that's just what you do, and that's what it was for me. It was you take the pre-workout and you go hit the gym. You go do curls in the squat rack.
Yep,
that's just tradition. And then after you have muscle milk, and can't figure out why your stomach is cramping.
Yeah, it's weird. You don't have that association with it. You're like, yeah, I can have this. Speed Stack was a big one back in the day. It was a drink.
I remember that.
And I mean, it was a pre-made, an RTD basically, and it was it had ephedrine in it and it had caffeine. I mean, it was a really strong blend.
Was that the one that they would promote on WWF?
Probably. It was by ABB, that American bodybuilding company.
I just remember some crazy commercials with a ready to drink. Like fat burner is what they promoted it as.
You know what we need? We need to like order some of this shit.
Hell yeah.
Online and fucking take a trip back down like the old school, because this company, American Bodybuilding, they used to make something called Blue Thunder. I could text John Cena right now and text him Blue Thunder, and he'd be so fucking pumped. And he'd probably send me like a long text back about it, because it was the most disgusting thing ever, but it had like 80 grams of protein. It's a ready to drink, and it was like blue. Like, they just made up a flavor because they're like, we don't even know what this fucking tastes like.
But it was blue.
Yeah, it was blue raspberry, I think is what it was called. Okay. And when you went to drink it, because it had so much protein in it, it left like a film on your tongue. It was like,
that's the worst.
Yeah, it was like a egg white. Like, your tongue would be like white from it. And it was just one of those stupid things where you're just like, well, other people are doing it and they're pretty jacked. So, I'm going to do it too. And then all the protein bars and stuff back then, there was a bar called the Steel Bar back then. And
Dude,
it was
I
like,
remember this.
It was like 16 grams of protein or something, but it was like 52 grams of sugar. It was fucking wild.
I'm so happy that I'm catching some of these old references.
Yeah,
I don't know how I know them, but that's just
the old school like Metrex bars, and the original Metrex shakes were so thick that they would like break your blender. Your blender would start smoking. It would like give up on you. It'd be like, rah, because they didn't have the same kind of blenders they have now.
That's why you gotta get a Ninja.
You would need, you need something. I mean, I don't even know. They just put like plastic in it or something because it would bulk up so much, and you'd try to drink that before you went to the gym, and you were so bloated and you just felt like you're gonna puke everywhere. But you're like, this is the game, we need this protein powder or whatever. And
it's all that xanthan gum.
Oh man, yeah. But I think it was like, I mean, at least those gums, like, I mean, they've been shown to like not be dangerous or whatever. I think the things that were in this thing were probably not so great. But yeah, that Blue Thunder was fucking disgusting.
Dude, supplements had some dark ages. Like, I think I'm at that cusp where I didn't get to experience, because I remember guys that were like 2 years older than me were talking about like, oh yeah, I had experience in Jacked, like the original. I never took the original Jack 3D. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before. But yeah, it's like right once I started getting to like using supplements, like it was a little bit more tame. But I feel like the ingredients like ephedrine and stuff started getting banned before I got to them. I'm so curious what that's like.
Yeah, they were, I mean, all those different supplements were crazy. Like ephedrine would make you extremely like wired. You would talk a lot, like a little bit like Mind Bullet.
I was thinking,
and you'd get like cotton mouth. I mean, that happens that happens with people that like
just
do
like straight drugs in there.
Yeah, that happens with amphetamines and cocaine and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just have to point this out because it did make me laugh.
Mini thins. That's what they were called. Right, Mini thins. Yeah.
This just made me laugh into the microphone. So Aesthetics, No Genetics said the original metrics would break your asshole.
Oh God.
Yeah, it sure would. I mean, it was just super.
The original power bars were so gross.
Oh yeah, those were horrible too.
Those were incredibly terrible.
You know, up to a few years ago, I never really had a good protein bar.
True. Yeah, right? It took a while. It took a while for them to start making some good protein bars. But yeah, all that stuff. You know, I think it's like you just want to like advance. You just want to like, so you're like, oh, this is probably the way to do it. And really, so back then especially, you know, there was people being paid to promote those things and being paid really well. And so that's what you thought was really going on. You know, you didn't know that guys were on steroids. You didn't know anything about their work ethic. You didn't realize they woke up at 5 a.m. and started cooking their meals for the day and stuff too. You didn't really know that they ate 6 times a day. Or if you saw any of that, you were like, you know, you're not following that. You're only following the fact that they took this thing before their workout that helped them burn fat. You know, that you're not following along with the hard stuff.
I think that's the funniest. I don't think people that market supplements do it as blatantly. I do see it every now and then, but like, yeah, back then the marketing was the funniest thing, because you'd see this jacked bodybuilder and he'd be like, after my workout, I drink my protein shake. And that's it. Like this brand protein is the greatest for building muscle. Like, it's just, and you really believed it.
Well, and an interesting thing is, if you go back even further, this is like kind of before my time, before I got into like lifting or started really reading the magazines and stuff. They used to talk about the other stuff. So they would say like, oh, this guy, you know, Mike Menser, he, this is the way he trains. He does heavy duty. He does like 1 set to failure. You know, he drinks milk, he eats potatoes, he eats steak. Maybe they talk a little bit about how he, you know, jogs here and there, or likes to walk a lot to keep body fat down. And then it would say like that he takes testosterone and does Dianabol. It'd be like in the article, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's just like wild, because like obviously it wasn't a Schedule 3 drug, you know, for there was a long period of time where it
so
wasn't
funny to me.
Yeah. Right? Imagine reading that. You're like, oh,
what is that?
Like chicken breast and Dianabol. You're like, like, huh, that's interesting. Well, and they used to talk about it pretty like openly. You know, they would be like, yeah, this is I think people were just like, yeah, what the hell? Like, shit, it makes you bigger. Like, if protein powder does something good for you, I'll take that too. But if this other thing works, why wouldn't I try that? And it just wasn't like, it wasn't demonized. And I think powerlifting gear was similar, where I heard stories where somebody would walk into like a warm-up room at a meet and just pass around some squat suits. People would try them out as they're warming up, and they're like, oh, I lift more in these. And then someone else would be like, what? What's that? All right, I'll try that on. And it wasn't like, oh, you can't wear that, you're cheating. It was like, oh, that's sick. That's like a belt, but for your legs and for your hips. Like, it feels more like, I guess it kind of hurt to wear it because it was super tight or whatever. But yeah, interesting, right? Like they weren't like, oh wait, we need to split everybody up. Like you guys go over here, and you'll be in the cheater category, and then we'll have everybody over here that's doing it the right way or whatever they want to call it, right?
Yeah, it's funny how we got to this topic, but yeah, I was watching a video, Greg Doucette, and he was talking about this one. I don't know the guy's name. He's also a pretty big bodybuilding YouTuber, but he was talking about like he uses stuff, but he doesn't use a crazy amount of stuff. And he was talking about his funny experiences getting like gyno and all this stuff, but how like people ask him, and he's like, yeah, I don't use a lot of stuff, but people start using a crazy amount of drugs and fuck themselves up like he did. So I think it is good how people are being transparent about that now. But I think some people are being transparent and also giving people stupid information about the things that they should take. Like we had John Meadows on, and we talked to him about like, how do you feel about like these individuals that are taking all this stuff? He's like, it's all too much. You're doing too much, you know? So it's good. YouTube is good now with that, but it's still scary seeing some of the things that people seem to be just going with.
From a drug perspective, I mean, a lot of it can be really just like we're talking about stupid things that you've done or stupid things that you tried. I mean, you don't really know the reliability of a lot of the stuff that you get. You know, it'd be nice if everyone could just get stuff from a doctor. Like that's what I do now. But I didn't used to do that. You know, it used to be like, it was actually really weird because steroids, it started out at a point where nobody made them. Like it was really uncommon for anybody to like actually make steroids except for like a pharmaceutical company. So you would get stuff from, you know, people that, you know, we're getting stuff from a pharmacy, or I don't even know how people were doing that. I don't know what the method was. And I don't even know why they made certain steroids. It really doesn't actually even make any sense because medically you don't need all of them. You just, testosterone would be fine. You don't need a bunch of other weird substances. They clearly made them for sports performance and then pretended like that it was never going to be like a big deal, or pretended that it wouldn't be tough for people to resist it. But, then it started to become really common for people to actually make them. And then I remember hearing about that. I'm like, I can't buy it from somebody that makes it themselves. That's weird.
Yeah, that is kind of odd.
It's really weird. Like imagine just buying a supplement and you're like, oh yeah, my buddy, he just like makes this at home. And you don't really know anything about it. It'd be different if your friend, you know, invited you over and said, hey, like I make this stuff and it's a coffee blend and it's this, and this, and he invited you over and showed you how he made it, and then you see that it's like pristine and it's really nice, and you're like, oh shit, okay, well, you're just taking some herbs and mixing them together, not a big deal. But you don't know the conditions under which these people are making stuff, and it's a Hail Mary. You're just like, yeah.
There's definitely some Clorox bleach in some of that shit.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you know, you inject something and you get a big like abscess or, you know,
has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah.
Really?
That's happened to me. That's happened to a lot of lifters that they had to back out of competitions. It's happened to a lot of bodybuilders. They've had to back out of competitions. Some people have just, you know, taken so much that their like blood pressure got out of whack and, you know, different things like that. But usually the most harmful thing is like, yeah, what's actually in that stuff? Like, what's it actually made out of? Because, well, there's a science to it. You know, it's a chemical, right? And there's alcohol in it. There's oil in it. Some people will try to like make the dosage really higher, you know, real high. And it's like, well, there's reasons why people don't do that, because you can't really, you know, you can't really effectively do that without having it hurt really bad or without having to bring the alcohol way up. And then you're going to cause infections in people.
Wait, the alcohol? What are we talking about right now?
Like in the oil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like you need a certain amount in there, I guess. I don't really know all the different things that go into actually making it, but yeah, it's just crazy. It's like a roll. It's a roll of the dice.
Y'all kids, y'all see how complex this shit is? Like, there ain't no reason. Take advantage of your new gains, lift for a while, and as we've talked on other podcasts, later in the future, if that interests you, go ahead. But nah, you don't need it.
No, and I think that's a good point. I think it is complicated. You know, okay, I'm thinking about getting on stuff. I would really be interested in doing so. And then it's like, okay, well, how long are you going to be on it for? You know, you're going to be on it just for a couple months. Because if you're on it for 3 months and you come off of it, there's a, you know, you're going to trend upward. Things are going to be really great, especially after you've done it for about 6 weeks. throughout that whole, cycle, everything will be really good. And then you got to come off them.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe you can afford to stay on them, but do you really want to stay on them, forever? It's a big decision. It's a big thing. And that's why, I talk a lot of people out of it. I'm like, I don't think you should do it because you're going to be on it probably for the next 20, 30 years.
Hey, again, I always bring up this horror story. And I sorry, guys. I'm just going to, old client of mine. And I messaged him, I think, about 7 months ago, asked how he's doing. He still can't. He can't have babies anymore, yo. Like, he's 25 now because he was younger than me when I started training him. And he did something, and he's still, like, he still hasn't been able to fix things so he can have kids.
And that's a really weird thing because you wouldn't really know, right? You could speculate that it was that and that your body never recovered, but it could also be some sort of genetic component, or it could be that you don't match well with your mate or whatever.
And I'm not saying that to say like you do drugs, you can't have babies. I'm not trying to scare you guys like that, but I'm just saying
it is something to consider. What if you want? It can ruin a relationship because if you get together with somebody and you guys have this agreement, we're going to have kids, and then it turns out that you can't. I've seen it happen. Even my own family, when people didn't want to have a kid, and then they had kids, like it could split you up. So it's all stuff to really just think about.
Yeah.
I said in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I love them, and I'll probably always be on them. But that's my opinion. And it took me a long time to even get to that opinion. I lifted for probably a good 15 years before I made that decision. And I probably made the decision too young. I probably made the decision too early. But now I feel like what would it be like if I got off of them? Like it would be weird. So I'm not ready to turn that page. And even if I was to come off them, it's like, well, TRT is a pretty good, it's pretty fairly healthy because you don't want necessarily astronomically high testosterone levels, but you also don't want astronomically low testosterone levels. So
yeah.
It's all something it's things to think about, and you got to donate blood and get your blood checked. It's easier to not have to worry about any of those things. It's also easier to not have your body weight can fluctuate a lot. Your mood can fluctuate. There's a lot of things that can go up and down with you adding in, a drug into the mix. And so it's just something that you need to be sure of. Like you need to be pretty damn sure that that's really the route that you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, coming off of SARMs and tests, that whole experience is why I didn't jump back on. Coming off felt like shit. I didn't like it. And then also, like I did that whole thing with Sarmageddon, but like, I don't know, man. It definitely is like a totally different experience. All of a sudden now having, so my wife's pregnant. And like the thought did cross my mind, like, shit, dude, like what if something weird I took might like, somehow like alter the baby's growth or something? Like, it just makes you really think. But
God forbid you have a jacked baby.
I know,
right? Comes out all veiny and jacked. Yeah. His first word is "Daddy, thank you."
Yeah, for real.
All veiny.
He comes out squatting more than me. That'd be sick.
Oh my God.
Lost my train of thought, but. No, yeah, it's just like in the moment, it's like, nah, dude, like this is gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. And you don't think, a cycle ahead. Like it's out of sight, out of mind. But like it's even worse. You're almost in denial. You're like, nah, this is what I want to do. Like this is fine. Trust me.
Yeah.
But if you can't, like the person you were training or still are training, like that's probably everything to him right now.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, that was everything.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, well, shit. I can't do anything. Like that sucks.
Yeah, no, I hit him up. I texted him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm still kind of things haven't gone back to normal yet."
Any idea how long he's been off for?
Well, he was off when I was training him, and that was 2013.
Oh, he's been off for a while.
He's been off for a long time. He's been trying to get things back to normal, but he still hasn't figured it out. So
that sucks.
Yeah. So just people be careful.
So what about this, like in terms of training, Nsima, do you think is it good to think about tomorrow? Is it good to think about the next day, or is that being a pussy? Should you lay it all on the line? Should you lay it all on the line right there? Like you feel like you got the energy, you feel pretty good, or should you be trying to stick to something specific so that you can continue to maybe if you stick to something more specific, maybe you're giving your body a better opportunity to grow or get bigger or get stronger.
Well, we were talking about chasing the pump, and I did mention I used to chase the pain and chase the soreness, you know, because when you start working out or you start doing anything new, you're going to get sore because it's new, right? But when you start getting better at it, you don't get as sore. So now you're like, what do I need to do to get that feeling again? So you just start kind of doing crazy, dumb stuff. And for me, it was going to failure almost every single training session. And after a while, I was like, I'm not getting that much stronger. I'm still working with the same weights. Huh? And I'm just feeling really sore, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting better. So to answer your question, yeah, like you need to back off a little bit. Like you said, in terms of that technical failure, you need to each day get to that. Maybe you don't even need to reach technical failure, but you need to get to that point where you're almost failing or at that edge, and stop there. It takes a lot of self-control because usually you always want to go to that rep or you fail, right? And it feels great in the moment, but then the next day you can't perform. And the next day you're feeling like crap and no. So to answer your question, yeah, you need to, usually for me, most of my training sessions or most of my reps in a single training session are 2 reps shy of failure. And then maybe my last few sets of a movement or the last few sets of the workout, I'll go to failure because then I can still go to the gym the next day and get a good workout in and get a progressive workout in. I'm not totally beat up.
I think a lot of us would love to, we would love to have a great accomplishment without crazy consequences, right? So Jay Cutler comes to mind. I believe he tore his bicep, trying to lift up dumbbells for like an overhead press. But other than that, he looks like $1 million. He looks super healthy.
Yeah.
And he's 4-time Mr. Olympia. You look at, Dorian Yates is another great example of a guy that really pushed the envelope. And Jay, I would say that Jay trained very smart. You're going to see videos of him and some other guys, pushing the envelope, screaming here and there, but like that wasn't the majority of his training. You watch most of his training, face is usually pretty relaxed. He's just like in the moment. He's concentrating on the muscle. When he did heavy squats and he wrapped his knees, you're going to hear some grunts, just like when we trained with O'Hearn. It's like, you just can't help it. Right. So you probably need a little dosage of that, but it's not smart to really annihilate yourself. If you're doing 5 or 6 exercises for the day, there should be some exercises that are just a little easier than others. And it's okay. Like it's okay for it to be a little easier than another exercise. Using Jay Cutler as an example, again, I remember him saying that he started out all of his leg workouts with leg extensions. And he would just do like 3 to 5 sets of leg extensions, but he was just moving his legs around. He was just getting warmed up. He was trying to get a little bit of a pump so that he actually was forced to use a little bit less weight when he went to do his squats. It was a way for him to get more out of his squats using a little bit less weight.
Yeah.
Getting a little bit of a pre-pump, but it wasn't like, he wasn't doing drop sets and he wasn't over there, screaming on the very first exercise that he did for the day. So there's all things to, even like a walking lunge, while it can be just like treacherous, right? It can be really, from a mind perspective, it can be really, really tough, but it's also not something you're going to be like really, screaming and going absolutely nuts for. So it's really tough to, that's a really tough one to do. But I'll say this is like tomorrow or tonight, I'm going to Tahoe. Tomorrow I'll be hitting up those trails again. And I think I'm going to try to go, I went on a 7-mile hike. I'm going to try to go on an 11-mile hike tomorrow. And so it's getting to the point of the week where I'm normally would be training my legs. And I'm like, okay, well, that trail is going to smash my legs. So today I have a chest workout. I also need to do chest at some point too. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a small amount of chest and a small amount of legs. So it always matters what's next? What do you have coming up? Are you going on a flight? Are you going to be in the car for a long time? Yeah, let's just it's okay. Like just use your head. And it's okay if you get there a little slower, or your legs didn't grow maybe exponentially as fast as you wanted them to, but it's okay to just take your time. Like, I'd rather see people take their time than to get hurt or to be super on. I don't want to, you know, be limping around those trails. I want to be able to get up and down those hills, you know, with ease.
Yeah. Nah, those sessions, like the session you said you're going to do that today, I kind of I call those tap sessions, because like I have one of those a week. Because I
tapping that ass.
That's
Natty Professor tapping that ass program.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I do tap my ass a little bit. Like I'll do some glute work.
Swipe up.
So technically, I do tap that ass a little bit. But like what that session is because I do 3 full body sessions a week. So that tap session is every single muscle group. I'll do really light load that'll get a little bit of a stim, like a little bit of pump in it, just for 2 sets, 2 easy sets on every single muscle group. And I leave the gym feeling good. You know, and that's one big thing. It's like people, you should get a good workout in. You should work, but you shouldn't leave the gym feeling like dog, like crap. You shouldn't leave the gym feeling like crap. You can get a great workout in, a great progressive workout in, while feeling good. I think that should be possible.
I think probably more often than not, when you leave the gym, you should feel better than when you started.
Yep.
You know, every once in a while, yeah, it's kind of cool to say like, yeah, I really like got my ass handed to me today. That's fine. And those are great. And those will be stimulating days. But if you try to do that every day, you're going to be a zombie. And, you know, I think, you know, for Nsima's training and for the way that I train, I think we actually kind of train in a similar way where we're not going in there and we're not like barely doing anything. I mean, we're working hard. The weights are heavy, but the weights are heavy for that particular day. They're heavy for that particular exercise. They're not always necessarily really, really heavy. It's not always necessarily that you're going in there and doing a 700-pound deadlift. I remember actually one day I was messing with it. You were doing your rows and you had like 245 on, but to do them strict is really tough. And I kept making fun of you. And I was like, dude, you need to put more. I was just like trying to, you know, make you throw more weight on there. And you're like, no, I'm good. You know, and you just stayed with that weight. That's really hard.
Yeah.
That's tough to have that patience to do that. But if you can get a good sensation out of using less, I think that's kind of what we're looking for. Sometimes we need that.
I think that what you just said there is super important. Early on, I heard about the mind-muscle connection from someone on YouTube. I heard about it, and I was like, okay, I'm really going to try when I do certain movements, I'm really going to try and focus it there. And I think that's something that lifters should try to focus on as they start lifting and as they progress. Are you feeling that lat pull down in your lats? Are you feeling a lot of it in your arms and your traps? Like, are you feeling this movement in the muscle group you're supposed to be feeling it in? If not, either lower the weight and slow it down so you could focus it there, or fix something. Because, like I can use really light weight and get a great stimulus out of it. Like I can get a pump using really, really light weight because I'm focusing on that muscle group. And I think that could be something that's missing, especially if you ego lift too often and you just try to go as heavy as possible. And on a lat pull down, you use the whole rack, and when you're using the whole rack, you're moving around a lot, and then you get off, you're feeling great, but you weren't really working your lats. You know, that's one big thing that I let go of, ego lifting.
You can ask yourself, like, do some of the other people that you lift with, do they use the stack? Do they have a good back? Do you have a good, like, do you feel that your back is pretty big or it's made the progress that you're looking for? And if if the answer is kind of no, then you need to just kind of rethink, like, how am I going to do these exercises? We're all built so differently too. A lat pull down has always worked really great for me. I always get a good stretch from it. The range of motion feels good. There's a lot of various handles that I can use, but some people don't like them. Some people kind of think they're worthless because it's not a row and it's not like a pull up. But we're all built so differently. You have to really find what's going to feel good for you. And there's just so many different ways of, working out with Mike O'Hearn was amazing because he's like, oh, we're going to do this. And then he always sits on the machine and like on backwards or sideways or whatever. And you're like, what the hell are we doing here? But it's always got a small twist with it. So you'll have to kind of mess around with it, manipulate it, and make sure you're really feeling it. At the same time, that doesn't mean that you do an exercise that's so hard that you can only use like 20 pounds. So that's where it gets to be kind of tough, you know. I was explaining the other day how like I like to do lateral raises where I throw the weight up a little bit. I kind of almost use it like momentum of like a reverse hyper, where I'll bring the weight in front of me, and then I'll bring the weight out, and I kind of I get a little bit of a swing, a little bit of a arm bend, almost a little bit of a curl, and then I swing the weight up. But I also do them regular style as well, where it's a lot more strict, where I sometimes will even keep them on my side, or I'll do a cable one where it's kind of behind the back, and I'll get a further range of motion to kind of make sure I get both. So that might be something that you want to try to implement into your training so that you can get, you know, let's say you do like a T-bar row. Well, on the T-bar row, maybe you're trying to handle some good weight, and it's okay to go for it a little bit as long as there's no risk of injury or anything, and you want to get 3 or 4 plates on there and move it around. That's okay to do that, but I would also say, you know, lighten the weight back up and clean it up and get that range of motion down to where you're really learning it. I think it's really important. And I would say the same thing is true with like a deadlift. You know, you're trying to work on a 405 deadlift. You know, you move around 225 for a few sets and, you know, work on locking your form in, but 225 is not going to get you to 405. So you're going to need to take some risk. You're going to need to put a little bit more weight on there, and you're going to need to like feel it out. But the majority of your volume should be done with lighter weight until you feel like you have it down correctly. The swinging for the fences type stuff, that has to be really, unfortunately, it has to be like very rare. It has to be like very rare. And as you get better at training, there'll be a lot less of that.
Yeah.
There'll be way less of that because you just don't need it, because you'll kind of be ahead. You'll be more jacked. You'll be stronger. You'll understand how the whole process works better. And you won't really need to swing for the fences at all to be able to hit home runs.
Let me ask you this. When did you start training each muscle group more than once a week? It took me a little bit to realize that I didn't have to do my arms once a week and I could do it twice a week, right? Because I was killing them too much in one session. I think that's one thing that I think doing like arms or whatever once a week, or doing each muscle group once a week in terms of frequency, can work really great when you're starting out and when you're a beginner, or if you're someone who's super busy and you can only hit the gym twice a week or something. But after a while, the better thing to do, rather than stacking all of your arm work into one day of the week, is to split that arm work into 2 days a week. And I used to think, blasphemy. But when I started doing that, I started getting bigger because I was able to recover better. I was able to do more overall totals in both sessions, and I grew faster. So I think that's one big mistake that people make, is that they stick to that once a week thing for too long. They stall and they don't know why they're stalling.
And you can kind of go at it a little harder because like you're fresh again, and maybe the one time that you did biceps, maybe you did 3 exercises, and maybe the next time you do, you know, another 2 or 3 exercises. But man, it's a lot easier to be fired up, excited, have energy for the separate workouts than it is to try to get through 6 exercises. You know, sometimes that's kind of a drag. You start to get into those later exercises, and even though it's just arms, it can start to be challenging and it starts to be tough. I think something that's important is for people to realize there's time. You know, you got time. You have time for everything. You know, there's time to spread the fatigue out. There's time to, you know, say, hey, I'm going to do, you know, legs 2-3 times a week. You have time to do it. You have time to mess with it. You have time to see what it looks like for you. For me, I started doing body parts like twice a week. Probably like when I started doing West Side, probably a pretty long time ago. It was always like, well, they bench twice a week. There's usually some sort of squat / deadlift twice a week. And so I just always knew it was important to try to do that and to spread the workouts out. I remember Louis was like, look, you know, you're kind of just, if you're doing more than like 5 or 6 exercises, you're probably wasting your time. The exercises probably aren't challenging enough. You should, like, at some point, you should want to get the fuck out of the gym, because you should be, you know, you should have worked pretty hard on those movements. So there's going to be days where you have a lot of energy and you're like, want to do 20 exercises. And that's not necessarily the worst thing, but for the most part, you just don't need that many. Spread them out a little bit more.
That's interesting. He said you don't need to be in the. How long did he have people in the gym? Is my question, actually.
Oh, Louis was a big proponent of So if you were wearing powerlifting gear, that changes everything. 'Cause
Yeah.
the amount of weight that you start to move.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a big proponent of 45 minutes to an hour workout.
I don't think people, 'cause I didn't know that, man.
Mhm.
I thought that a lot of West Side guys were having super long workouts. Like, I like that too. I like that idea, getting out in like 45 to like maybe 80, 90
He even
minutes.
likes like 20, 30-minute workouts, but like those aren't usually main workouts. Those are usually like the extra workouts that he talks about, where you might drag the sled a little bit. You might work some rotator cuff, like all stuff that maybe you just weren't able to get to. He's a huge fan of, like, he'll say work out like 8 or 9 times a week.
You're not sitting out. You're not like, it's to do that though. You're not sitting down that crazy. Like, I mean, I know if you're doing heavy squats or something, you got to take rest between sets, but you're not just like chilling like you see some people doing these days, chilling on the bench on their phone.
West Side workouts are tough, and even training at West Side was just like, it was hard. They don't sit around at all. Like you would think like they're resting pretty long in between sets, but you're not only like kind of start to gasp for air a little bit, you're like, oh man, I don't even know if I have like the strength to unrack that next set, because like we just did 10 sets. I mean, they move pretty. I mean, those are big people. Those are big guys, and the people that listened to Louis the most lasted the longest, and the people that didn't, they ran out of luck a lot quicker. Their blood pressure got high, they got unhealthy. And Louis was always like, you got to come in a couple times a week and drag the sled and do this and that. And I think everyone just always thought it was like a waste of time. But it's like, no, this is like, conditioning stuff. But even on max effort day, we would go in a rotation of like 4 or 5 people. And there was no break. There was no time in between. It was just like one person after another. We weren't like in a race, and it wasn't like a rush. But rest period on a heavy training day, you got 3 minutes. Yeah, it's not really that long. When the weight starts to get really heavy, you're kind of like looking around. That's where you wrap your wrist a couple extra times. You're like trying to bide your time.
Oh, my shoe. Yeah. I got that from Mark. We had a question from our boy Matt. Basically, how can you tell the difference between ego and drive?
Okay, so in a lift, I would say a straightforward thing is, does the lift look ugly? Did your form break down early in your lift and you're just trying to push through it and you probably shouldn't? There's ego. Drive is if the form, like, it's tough, but you're staying with it. You push through and you finish the rep. Not like you're good morning a squat and you're coming up and you're no, that's ego. That's ego. But I think you probably have a better answer to that than I do.
No, I like that. I think that's dead on. I think this kind of stuff gets to be kind of complicated, because you want to try to burn shit into your brain to where you become, quote unquote, tougher, where you become just a stronger individual. You can handle more of life's resistance. You can handle more of life's up and downs. And I think we get that through, drop sets and through sets of 20, and just like going beyond what you thought your body could do. Mm-hmm. But there's a time and place to do both. I think there's a time to, like, there's something really, really powerful. And you think about the people that we admire the most. I think the people that we admire the most, we think they're crazy motherfucking savages all the time.
David Goggins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know what? They're really not. They're way different. Like, what we admire about them is we probably have a misinterpretation of what it is that we actually like about them. But it's almost always the same shit. They have integrity. They have patience. They got patience. They got a crazy amount of patience. Like David Goggins, as tough as he is, you can't just tough like a run. You can't just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, start running as far. He can do it now, and it's easy for him. And even as crazy as he is, I bet you his training is probably pretty complex. It's probably, maybe not even complex, it's probably very sophisticated.
He stretches 90 minutes a day.
Yeah, right. So these are the things, we're not, I don't know, we misinterpret. Mike Tyson, man, he's such a savage. He's so fucking, yes, Mike Tyson is very aggressive. Mike Tyson is really powerful. But Mike Tyson is one of the greatest athletes of our era. I mean, he is unbelievable. The speed, the power, the agility, the amount of time he spent training. I mean, that guy, you know, when he used to wake up at like 3 a.m. and run, and they asked him why, and he was like, because he didn't think anybody else was doing that. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you need that mental edge, and sometimes, you know, kind of feeding the ego is sometimes a good thing. But I think if you're trying to like lift for Instagram, or you know, you got to think to yourself, am I proud enough of this lift to like send it to my coach, or is my coach going to be like, dude, come on, like, dude, we went over this like 100 times. Like, what was that? You know, why are you still lifting this way? You know, you want to make sure that you want to look like a professional. You want your lifts to, you know, for the most part, look really good 95% of the time, maybe even more. The people I saw at Super Training over the years that made the least amount of progress, had the least amount of patience, and the least amount of dedication towards restriction and towards holding themselves back. They always went too hard. They always went too heavy. That's not admirable. That's not what we like about people. We think we do. We think we like that. We don't. We don't like that. We like the patience. We like to see the guy be patient. We love to see somebody come back. We love a good comeback story. And why do we like that story? Because we saw the guy get defeated by it. And we're like, he missed a 405 bench. And then 3 weeks later, he tried it again. He missed it again. But then 3 weeks after that, he came back and he made it. And there's some sort of persistence there, but there's also a lot of patience that had happened somewhere along the lines where the guy said, hey, you know what, everybody, I got to admit, I've been doing this wrong. Like, I haven't been doing this correctly. He's got to at least admit it to himself, and maybe he reaches out to a coach, or maybe he, you know, finds some answers within himself and comes up with a different idea, or tries something old that he did in the past that worked well, whatever it might be. But we love that. We love seeing that from somebody. I mean, there's nothing more admirable in the fight game like MMA or boxing, because it's like, man, those guys, there's nobody else in the ring. You know, football is different, or soccer, or any of these other team sports. It's like, oh, that's cool. Well, the other team came back and they whooped their ass. That's pretty cool. But imagine you get in the ring with another human being, and they're really skilled in jiu-jitsu and you know, striking and all these different things. But you're really skilled too, and you've been doing it for 20 years, and you get knocked out. You just get crushed. Like, you don't, it's not even like it's not a lucky punch type of thing. Like, the guy beat you up and then he just overpowered you and maybe even choked you out or something. Like, just totally crushed you. Well, we've seen people come back and then they win, and it's like, well, how do they do that? Well, it's because they go back to the drawing board. Their coach tells them, dude, you know what, Nsima, it's like, I've had the same discussion about this forever. Your striking game fucking sucks. I know you don't like to hear that, but that's what we got to fix. If you want to be able to beat this guy, this is what we need to do. And we need to practice more on that. You can't just jiu-jitsu this guy. Okay. Here's our game plan. You know, we're going to take out his legs first, make sure he gets tired, because you're in great shape. And then you can fucking jiu-jitsu the shit out of him later on. Yeah. You know, you come up with a game plan and you kind of reevaluate, but you can't just ego stuff. You can't just be like, I'm going to take my strength and I'm going to just overpower everybody, or I'm going to overpower these weights, or I'm going to, you know, lean into those things. It just, at some point, your luck's going to run out. You're going to have to show some patience. You're going to have persistence, and you'll have incremental progress that's probably really agonizingly slow over a long period of time. And that's how you get better. And then that's when people tell you that you're great and you didn't even know what you did. Like, dude, wow, that was like, I watched Nsima do jiu-jitsu in a tournament, and he was fucking amazing. But I also know that I'm not him. I didn't go to all those practices. I know how many hours he spent doing that. Like, there's a lot of hardship, probably a lot of times where you drive home and you're like, man, this isn't for me. I suck. You know, really sore, cramping up, injuries. Why am I doing this? Like, all these things happen, but again, there's persistence there behind it. And so when he gets his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and when he brings the title back home to Sacramento, and we get him a labradoodle, we'll know what it was all about. It's not about the ego. It's about just figuring out a way to continue to get better.
Quick question, Mark. How many years did you lift before you hit your like first record, like state record or whatever record? How long after you started lifting was that? How many years?
So as a kid, you know, it happened pretty quickly just because there wasn't anybody else lifting at that age.
Okay, yeah.
And so those, I wouldn't even count those because they're actually literally sometimes there wasn't an established record. So that's not really breaking a record. I guess it's like just setting a record at some point. But no, it took me like 20 years.
I don't think anyone's ever like realized that, like, because they see the clips when you're super strong, but then that's like, that was 20 years after. Right?
Yeah.
Like 20 years after.
It took 20 years, and it took like maybe like 8 or 10 years of being like really locked in to the point where it was like, it's just not even healthy. You know, like you can barely function as a human being because you're so into what you're doing.
Yeah.
People are like, that guy's an asshole.
That's the thing, man. That takes like a time. Like you see the end game, or you see someone doing something really cool, but you don't see the amount of work that went in. So it's hard to understand that. Who knows? You might put in the same amount of work. You might not get there. But if you do put in that type of work for a long enough time, you will get to a spot that you never probably thought you could ever reach, just because of time, patience, and consistency. It's really that simple, and very hard work.
Yeah, I would say like just to kind of maybe wrap some of this up, other things I've done that are dumb are just you know, watching what other people do and then like immediately going and trying that and abandoning just like no longer doing what I was doing before when I was making progress. So if you're making progress, that's really valuable. You know, don't undersell that. If you're making progress with your diet, you're making progress with your training, and you hear something that we say or you hear something somebody else says, don't go and abandon what you're doing. It's okay to like try something. What I would suggest is that you see a new exercise from somebody or something like that. You try it in your warm up, or you try it kind of after a workout, and then you can decide on whether you want to kind of like implement that. But to jump ship on a program and oh man, keto didn't work for me because I did it for 3 days and it hurt my stomach, you know, and now you're doing flexible dieting, and then now you see the thing on carnivore and you just keep hopping around. It's like, just please try to be patient with it and try to just understand like these things, they take time, and you'll learn a lot as you're doing it. And so you'll continue to get better. But I remember for me when I was young, that was always the hardest part, was to like want to do what everybody else was doing. And like luckily I had a coach, you know, he pretty much just had me on the same like lifting program forever. And it was annoying because it was really boring. Like I just hated doing, at a certain point I hated doing it. I liked doing it in the beginning, and then I hated doing it like 2 years later because I'm like, oh my God, like this is the same thing every time. It was basically like a 3 sets of 3 program where he would just kind of bring the volume up a little bit. He might add some sets and add some weight to it. It was just super, super simple, but I was like, I don't want to use 225. You know, I don't want to do this. Like, I got to do this again. And he's like, yeah, well, we're starting over. We got to build back up. And I'm like, 3 sets of 3 with 225 is like way too light. Like, what am I doing? And he's like, well, your form's not that good. He's like, improve your form and then we can add weight. I'm like, but I don't want to do that. Like, I know I can do 275, you know, I know I could, but he wouldn't let me. He would actually come over and take weight off the bar all the time. I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah. No, that's kind of the same thing that happened for me when I was like really, really young, or not really young. I was a teenager, but my tendency is when I saw a new program online that was like, oh, doing this program, your squat's going to go up, or this is going to go up, I'd switch immediately. Like I didn't have confidence in what I was doing, even though it was working. So I was like, fuck it. Let me just do that. Let me try that. Let me try that. But after a certain point, I was just like, doing too many different things too often doesn't allow me to really progress well at anything. Like I'm switching too much. I need to give myself the time to really push this, really see what I can get out of it, really see how much stronger I can get. And when I did that, that's when things really started being able to, again, continue moving in the right direction. I think that's one thing that it's hard not to seek something new, because when you do something for a certain amount of time, the natural instinct's like, this is kind of boring. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, even though it's working. It's like that. It's like a shiny new toy, right? It's like, my Toyota sucks. Let me go get that new car. And then you drive it for a while. You're like, well, unless it's a Tesla, unless it's Tesla, but drives itself, right? But yeah, like if you're able to progress well, just stick with it. Because there's always all these these videos like, do this to add this much weight onto your deadlift, or like I remember the Kaler Woolen video, which was really good. It was a great video, but I remember he was like doing these rows, these cheater rows, right? I still get messages to this day where people are like, so do you do those Kaler rows still? I was like, no, they weren't for me, and they weren't for my back. Like, my back can't do that shit.
I think that was the first video that I put on the Super Training channel that got over 100,000 views.
Yeah.
I remember that was like a huge thing for me.
I did that one day with Kaler. I did it the second day, and I realized,
nope,
this is not for me. My back can't handle this, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was creative titling. It was I think deadlift 900 pounds easy.
You're part of the problem, Andrew. No, I'm joking.
I apologize, and you're welcome. Yeah, Kaler was insane.
He is insane.
I remember everybody just standing around looking at him laughing.
He made no sense. His arms are like this long, and his back is like pumped all the time. It's
he's fucking jacked.
He's another beast. And then
Jamal.
I mean, Jeremy, of course. Kaler and Jeremy are like the same person.
They really are. They're very similar.
They're very similar.
They look like Street Fighter characters.
Yeah. But Jamal, man, that guy's going to pull 1100 sumo.
Jeremy, I didn't see him for like 3 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And like, so I saw him about 2.5 weeks ago. And he's like, I've been a little out of practice with training and stuff. And he's like shredded. There's like, there's veins in his toes and shit. And like, he's like chewing gum and there's like striations in his forehead. And he's just telling me, he's like, I've been eating better. Like, he has his gas station diet or whatever. But he's been eating a little bit better more recently. And then I saw him just like 2 days ago. And I was like, dude, like,
you transformed?
You're like huge. Like, not that he wasn't big before. He was big anyway. He goes, oh yeah, I started lifting. He's like, I think I put on like 11 pounds or something.
Yeah.
He's just like crazy. Like, this is a super responder. And I know there could be other things at play, but it doesn't really matter what's at play. I mean, he's just he's just an absolute machine. And he pulled, 7 plates. He did a couple reps with it. And he was like, man, it feels like shit. And he's like flying with it.
Yeah.
It's just, he's moving so fast.
Yeah. Do you guys know what his max deadlift is?
It's 9 something.
He did 897 or 8, whatever that number is, just before the 900.
What do you think?
He'll pull like 920 or something coming up.
Yeah, because anytime we do any content with him, they can't accept that it's a lot of hard work. So if that's literally all it was, what do you think he'd still be able to pull?
Well, you also have to think, so Jeremy, is unique in the sense that he doesn't look like he would be able to do the other lifts that well. And he's squatted 800 pounds. So, I mean, like, like we should actually do it on video. We should measure his waist. I mean, I would guess and say that he's one of the people he's somebody in the world that probably has like one of the smallest waists to ever fucking squat 800 pounds.
I would agree with you.
I would say that, Ronnie Coleman, he's done that too, and Stan and stuff like that, but he would be right there with those guys. And then, also consider
the body weight.
His body weight is so different than what those guys have. I mean, how did that guy squat? The deadlift, we can make sense of it. We can say, okay, well, he's got longer arms. He practices a lot. He trains a lot. He's unbelievably strong. He's unbelievably powerful. And yes, it doesn't make sense that he's able to pull nearly 900 pounds, but at least I can understand some of it. You can, especially because you see other guys now pulling 7 and 8 pretty regularly, right? But that guy put 800 pounds on his back, and he weighs like about 200. That doesn't make any sense.
His explosiveness, though, that's one thing that I don't think people realize he has. Like, you can see it in the deadlift, but I'm really curious, like, how high does he jump? I've never seen him jump, but I can assume that he can just jump out of the gym.
Yeah. his strength to body weight ratio, you know, we actually have to slow him down all the time. You know, you have to like, because first of all, he'll get hurt. You know, they talk about like how Bo Jackson got tackled and ended his career, how just powerful he was, and how he would kind of like was wrenching that guy down the field, and that's how he blew out his hip. And they were just like, that's because Bo Jackson, like, he's got like so much power, so much horsepower. But Jeremy is like that, where he just has so much horsepower. He's got to be really careful and cautious. And when I was working with him the other day, I was showing him, you know, how to kind of like lock in a deadlift and kind of move it a little slower. And he absolutely loved it. He was like, holy shit. He's like, I felt every muscle in my whole body. He's like, that felt amazing. And I was like, yeah, I don't think you sometimes even work some of them because you move so fast. There's no tut. There's no time under tension, you know?
I want you guys to realize how crazy what was said was, because that what you said really surprised me, because Jeremy is a top deadlifter who's been deadlifting for a very long time. And you just showed him something to slow down the weight. And it's something he hasn't felt before. Being one of the top deadlifters in the world, he hasn't felt it before, and he was surprised. You know how crazy that is?
He was like confused.
That's wild.
He's like, what did we just do? You know, and I was like, well, I just had you stay at the bottom a little bit longer. But yeah, he normally just goes like crazy. What I was trying to do with him is have him hold his position, because what he'll do is because he's strong enough to do it, he can get away with certain things. And I don't know anything about lifting the weight that he's lifting. So I got to mention that as well. Like that was my advice to Eric Spoto too. I was like, dude, here's what I think. And I think this will work. You know, in my head, this is what I think would work, because I've coached a lot of people and helped a lot of people. But only you know how to move that weight, because no one's ever benched it before.
Yep.
And you have to sometimes realize that with these people, that they're brilliant. You know, it's like a form of genius to be able to like move these, to express your body in these ways. And you see it all the time in jiu-jitsu, where you're like, I don't understand what that guy just did, but he's on a different level and we should all just go home.
Yeah.
That's how you feel when you're around Jeremy. You're just like, holy shit. But yeah, just slowing him down a little bit and really making sure he maintained position for all 3 reps that he did, because he'll tend to, the hips will shoot up. It's like so minimal. It's so tiny. But I'm like, you need to stay down in there a little longer and then pull all that slack out of the bar. That's not the way that he's going to deadlift normally, but I think some training like that, like kind of you were doing with some of the pause deadlifts, you know, that's going to make up a decent amount of his training. It's going to, you know, help add some time under tension, help add some volume, help add some intensity to his workouts, and he doesn't have to use 900 pounds.
There's going to be muscle memory in there when he does get to that weight. Like, even though he was in trying, so he's still lifting the same way, he's still exploding from the bottom, his hips are going to stay a little bit better, even though he's not doing it with 900 pounds in multiple sessions.
Have you ever torn anything in training? Or even like just pulled or tweaked a hammy, a hip?
Yeah.
Bicep?
Yeah. But those... they don't happen often, and when they do happen, it's not too major. I've never torn anything that caused me to be out of commission for months, other than like my meniscus that I had to get surgery on. But like, nah, like usually if something like that ever happens, I know why it happened. I know why. I'm always like, yeah, that's what I did. And I just work around it for a few weeks. I'm good.
And then what about like getting really sore? Have you ever done anything to where you're just like, that was a huge mistake, like you just can't get up off the couch? Or
used to happen a lot when I was younger. Hasn't happened much since. Happened with Real World Tactical when
it doesn't happen. Yeah, that was brutal. We'll talk about that in a second. It doesn't happen anymore because you're smarter about it, or it doesn't happen anymore because of like you're conditioned, or is it a combination of the two? Or
okay, so I don't want to go on too long of a rant here, but you know, when I started lifting, I mentioned you get really sore, and if you go kind of hard, you get kind of beat up. After a while, you adapt. You don't get as beat up, even though you're training really hard and really well, right? Same thing happened in jiu-jitsu. Initially, since my body never moved that way, I was really sore. I felt really beat up. I couldn't do shit in here. Like, everything felt like crap in here until I adapted to the movements. And I don't feel sore after jiu-jitsu sessions, even though they're really hard. So I think that number one, I was able to adapt to the training stress. And then the second big thing is I push myself, but I know where I know people don't like the word limits, but I know where my limit is for each training session to be able to progress, but not go over that place where I can't progress again the next day.
And you probably have a good idea in your head when you're like, you see pull-ups, you know, or you, whatever it is, like if you write your stuff down or if you don't write your stuff down, but like if you just are thinking like, I'm going to do pull-ups today, I'm going to do some pen lay rows, like already in your head, you have an idea of the execution of like
the loads.
Yeah. You're going to use like a weighted thing for the pull-ups, or are you going to do higher reps, right? You probably have a decent idea of that going in. And then so I think that maybe people don't know how much of this we do. We do like a little bit of a projection of like I know if I'm going to bench, you know, especially on bench, I just have a good sense of it that I'm going to use a certain weight. And if I was to do a deadlift workout like right now, I would be like, you know what, I'd be totally fine. I haven't deadlifted that much recently, so I'd be totally good with like deadlifting like 315 for a few sets of 8, making sure the form is crisp, and if it felt good, I might go a little heavier. You know, I think that when you're new, man, it's really tough to figure that out. Or if you tried anything, you write it down.
Herbie the Love Bug. Y'all remember his notebook? Andrew took a picture of it. But like, I think that that's a real, especially if you're newer, you know, you're trying to make progress. It's going to be hard for you to remember what you did last week, especially if you're just moving around weight. And if you don't know what you did last week, you might go into the next week thinking you really progressed and you didn't.
That's the worst.
Right? And you'll do it again the next week and again the next week. So yeah, it would be some people, you know, think it's a bit of work, but it takes a bit of work to move in the right direction. Write your shit out. Really, write it out or type it out. Do whatever works best for you. But I think, whenever I like go into each lifting session, I know around the weights I'm going to work with for each movement. If I'm feeling kind of tired this day, it'll be within 20 pounds of this weight. If I'm feeling good, maybe I'll be able to work with 10 more pounds.
This is something I think you should actively practice. You know, as you're training, once you start doing an exercise, you do say like a seated row. I always like to do what I refer to as a garbage set, which is just a set just to feel the weight out. I don't know if I really need it necessarily, but I don't really like to do much in terms of warming up. And so I usually just go to the exercise that I'm going to do, and I usually just start there. And, you know, on something like a seated row, I might move around like 80 pounds, which is very, very light. I might do so kind of slowly, make sure the biceps feel good, make sure there's no weird feedback in the elbows, and make sure the lower back feels good, and maybe do a set or two like that. And then kind of, you know, work my way into starting to project what I think I'm going to be able to do for the day. Oh, wow, I feel pretty good. I think maybe I'll do the stack and get some reps in there with that. Or, you know, I'm not really feeling I'm going to stick with a higher rep range for today. But I think these are things that people should work on, you know, once you get under that weight. And also, you know, keeping track of, you know, how many sets did you do last time? How did that feel? What did that do to you? How did you feel several days later? Because if you did 8 sets and you were crazy, crazy sore, maybe this time you can say, you know what, I just want to try 6 sets and see what the difference will be.
You see, I love how you guys understood that, right? Well, we had Mike Isertel on the podcast too. And you know how Mike loves talking about maximum recoverable volume, which sounds super complex. We're like, maximum recoverable volume, what is that? Well, that's what we just mentioned here. You look at what you did on that day. You look at how you feel 2 or 3 days later. Are you trashed? Okay, do less sets. Do you feel good 2 or 3 days later? That's your maximum recoverable volume. It's that simple. It really is. It doesn't have to be, it's not difficult. Yeah.
I also think you can feel it too, and that's something that you might need to learn, is that when you just don't feel yourself, you don't feel like your normal self, you're a little fumbly, maybe you spill your coffee and just like you're just a little off, like you might just need a day off. You know, it might be a good sign. I mean, we like through doing all these stupid things over the years and through messing ourselves up, you kind of learn like, oh, okay, like maybe for me, I try to lift every day, and I try to pick a body part every day. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you look at, you know, a LeBron James or a, you know, professional basketball player, they got themselves conditioned to the point where they can play basketball every day and it doesn't bug them. You know, if me and Nsima went and played basketball, we'd be really sore. We would be really, really sore because we're not used to it. We're used to lifting weights, and so it doesn't really make us sore. But you might have to kind of just pay attention here and there to like I end up with days off just because it's like not feasible to end up in the gym every single day. Sometimes I'm traveling somewhere or doing something else, and it's just not possible. But I try to work out every day, and I would say it probably ends up being, 300 something days out of the year probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, a workout, like we talked about this, especially during quarantine, it doesn't have to be something in the gym. Like you can get in some push-ups and squats. If you can't get into a gym, do yourself try to maybe do 100 push-ups or 200 push-ups and 200 squats. That's a pretty good workout. It's not bad. You did something. Just don't let a day go by where you do absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Any like drawbacks to like what I've been doing recently, and it's because Mark had mentioned it about like saving time and making sure you get in a workout. I just been focusing on like one body part or one muscle group at a time. Not really stressed about like being prepared for another photo shoot, not doing a meet or anything. So other than it maybe taking more time, is there any other drawbacks to kind of just doing that, getting in maybe like a 45-minute workout as opposed to like a 2.5-hour workout?
Wait, when you say taking more time, what do you mean?
As far as like if I want to, let's say I want to look better.
Yeah.
So that's going to possibly take more time if I'm not, doing more compound movements. I'm going to come in, I'm going to focus on shoulders today.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, maybe doing like a bench press and shoulders, I'm only doing like shoulder pressing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I talked to you. I mean, I told you about this. I'm gonna, like, you told me what you kind of like to do. I'm gonna try to write out something that you can do so that there's structure there.
Mm-hmm.
Thing about writing things out is that when you know what you're gonna do, you'll be able to do more. When you kind of have an idea of what you're gonna do in the gym and you lack some experience, then you're gonna be thinking in between each set. And you're going to waste time thinking about what you're going to do next, which means you'll do less work, which means a workout that you could have done a great workout in 45 minutes to an hour. But because it wasn't organized, you didn't do nearly as much as you could have done.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So the one body part a week, or maybe the one body part a session thing, I don't think it's bad, but I think you're at a stage where you can be doing you don't have to do multiple body parts a session, but each week you can hit each muscle group twice.
Yeah.
You're at a stage where that's for you. I mean, you've been lifting for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to just like get in the gym and lift, what you're doing right now is still a win because you're still pushing that. But now we can just push that more.
Yeah. And would you say like I don't know, like maybe like one muscle group every like 5 days type of thing, so that way it's not like, oh, I gotta hit chest on Monday and Friday, and if you miss that one day, then it's like, well, shit, now it's Saturday. Like, you know what I mean? Like, would it be better to look at it that way as opposed to like Monday's chest day, National Chest Day? It
is like, yeah, like I think that's not bad. I think one thing that we tend to do is we tend to always look at our structure within a strict 7-day period. So
yeah,
each program's like, it's a 3-day-a-week program that you have to do every 7 days. But some people are super busy. So sometimes like I'll make a program that is 6 days are programmed, right? And it's a different workout with the 6 days, but it's 6 days done in a 9-day period. Okay,
right.
You guys get what I'm saying? It's a 6-day program done in a 9-day period. So
you made your week 9 days.
Exactly. Yeah. You've made your training week 9 days. So you can still hit all of that, but it's spread out a little bit more. It makes it easy for you for your schedule, right? So understand that it doesn't have to be a 5-day split, 4-day split. It can be a 4-day out of, if you're really, really busy and you really can't hit the gym, it can be 4 out of 8, It's just
one way that I just kind of burn more calories is like I'll do, I do one body part, but it's like kind of impossible to really do one body part. Multiple things are going to get worked. And when I think of like arms, I just kind of consider it one body part, even though I'm doing biceps and triceps. And when I do shoulders, I usually try to get like all of the shoulder, or sometimes I'm like, all right, well, I'm already kind of, working the shoulder. Maybe I'll, finish with some triceps. And then the same thing happens with back. It's like, okay, well, I'm already kind of working some biceps. So it really depends on the day. It depends on like, what I'm doing, but it's, and then with legs, I mean, I consider legs all one thing, but that's certainly not all one thing, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things to work in there. And so, I'll drag the sled, which is kind of a little bit more hamstrings if you're pulling it forward, or I'll drag the sled backwards, so working more quads. Maybe the squats, maybe I view those as working your quads more, and the belt squat and so on, right? But you really end up kind of, working a bunch of different muscle groups, and actually more recently, just because of like the way things have worked out, sometimes I'll do like shoulders and I'll do like hamstrings, which doesn't really make any sense, but it's they don't take away from each other, and that's a really key ingredient, you know. So whatever stuff that you can find in your workouts that doesn't, you know, pull away, you can get amazing workouts. And there's actually some research that even shows that by working the antagonist muscle, you can flex the opposing muscles like a little harder, or maybe recruit more motor units / muscle fibers and things like that.
Yeah, it's like
that feels so good though. Like to do a set of shoulders and then just go on a leg curl and boom, you kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Like that's the thing. It's like I think some people, when I do program for them, like, I've never done legs on the same day that I hit my upper body. I'm like, yeah, you're in for a ride. Like, you can do that. It like, and then that
actually makes a lot of sense. Smaller muscle group attached to the biggest muscle group that you got, like, it makes tons of sense.
Mm-hmm. And like, again, you can, like you said, you can do these things without them taking away from each other. You can go straight from your shoulders, straight to legs, straight to shoulders, without having to rest so much, because your legs are resting as you're doing your shoulders, and your shoulders are resting as you're doing your legs. You get more in less time.
Yeah, you did that to me, and I hated it.
I know.
Because, like, you saw me dying when you programmed thrusters, and you're laughing just like that, and I'm like, oh my God. That was terrible. But
yeah, I tricked Andrew the other day too. I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go do shoulders," and then we did like 4 hamstring exercises first.
I'm still sore from those hamstrings.
Yeah, Tom hates working legs, so I'm trying to work on those little chicken.
That makes sense.
Chicken legs,
and that's all he talks about too. Is like, I gotta get my calves up. I need calves. Like, and he'll look at mine and like, I have nothing. You know. Nothing
he needs
down there, but he's
Tom like needs a thought bubble around him, you know, like the thought bubble is like always about his calves.
Yeah.
You know? It's probably like on one side it's probably saying I need bigger calves, the other side saying, but my chest is pretty jacked.
And then there's one side saying I need coffee.
Oh yeah, he always needs coffee too.
And then another one that says I don't actually drink that much coffee.
Yes.
You know exactly what
I don't
I'm
drink much
talking about.
coffee, guys. 6 cups in.
Yeah, just a little bit of background info. Tom's a savage. He works his ass off. He gets here early. He drinks a whole pot of coffee to himself before anybody else gets here.
Yes.
And then we'll say, I don't even drink that much coffee as he's drinking coffee. It's pretty awesome.
We love Tom. He had a massive pretzel last night. A massive sugar pretzel.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Mark loves
You need
pretzels.
to talk to your boy. He's going a little bit off the deep end.
Slow him down a little bit, huh?
Yeah, you got to slow him down. Tom, I love you, bro. I'm just going to tell on you every time you make a mistake.
Every time. We got his back. Yeah.
Did you eat a piece of it?
I had a small piece. It was good. It was very good.
You watched him get fatter before your very eyes, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the best.
It is. But I had some good food, too. I had some tacos, some carne asada fries.
Where at?
I think it was called Golden Road, downtown. Mm-hmm. It was pretty decent food.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
Absolutely. All right, cool. Everybody on the live stream, you guys were awesome today. I've seen a couple of debates going back and forth about squatting 3 times a week, whether or not that's a good idea, whether or not novices can do it.
It can be great.
Yeah, I think so. But like, what I just want to say is like, thank you guys for all the comments and stuff. That does help the channel. It helps this video, helps more people see it. So if you're catching this after we went off air, go ahead and just drop us a comment. Say whatever the hell you guys want. Say that Nsima is jacked and handsome.
Or a fake natty.
Or a fake natty. I was going to go there, but I don't want to.
It's okay.
All right. Yeah, everyone's calling him a fake natty
Seems
lately.
pretty real to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can reach out and touch him.
Yeah. I'm ashy, though, yo. I need a lotion.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so thank you, everybody that did join the live stream. And again, if you are catching this after, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about today's conversation. Let us know what you guys messed up on your training sessions, the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to hear everything. Please make sure you hit up Piedmontese, the people that sponsored this episode. Those links will be down in the YouTube and Facebook descriptions, as well as the podcast show notes. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on Twitter. I guess we'll be on TikTok until they officially ban it. I kind of started posting stuff again because I remember the login. Real story. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where can people find you?
And Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. There's a new video today that's out, 5 things you need to know before starting BJJ. And a new Smooth Panther video is coming on Monday. And Nsima Inyang on Twitter. Mark?
That Smooth Panther.
Mm-hmm.
I need me some of that. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's just,
We're still on air?
it'll get you all flexible and stuff. You know?
Whoops.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stretch it all out.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Today's episode was a lot of fun, talking about some stuff that has really messed us up. I'll just kind of finish off by saying when I first got into professional wrestling, the camp that I went through, they just tried to like see if you had what it takes kind of thing to make it through a practice. And I can't remember everything that I did that day. I know I ran a bunch like in between doing like step-ups or something like that. But I had to do like 1,000 step-ups per leg. And then I also did like a 2 or 3 hour like wrestling practice. And I never did wrestling before. So I was so sore for the next 2 days. My bed was upstairs in this apartment that I lived in. I had to sleep. I just like slept downstairs because I'm like,
Wow.
there's not really, like I tried to go up the stairs.
Yeah.
I put like 1 foot up and my legs started like tremble and like cramp. And I'm like, there's no way. Like I was going to try to sleep on the couch. So, and then I actually, when I went to sleep on the couch, my stomach started to cramp up. So I'm like, I think I'm just going to try to sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Just so I don't have to like push myself off to the soft cushions or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty bad. And then my legs were sore for a good like 8 or 9 days. But that's probably, that's the most sore I ever got, was from that brutal workout. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you all later.